On this video, I'm going to go over the differences between FRS and GMRS. FRS, or Family Radio Service, does not require a license and can be purchased for very little money in the United States. FRS is maxed out on its wattage for transmission to 2 watts. Separately, GMRS, or General Mobile Radio Service, is quickly growing, and it can have a transmission up to 50 watts, and it contains handhelds and mobiles. GMRS is growing in popularity in a few specific areas. One is off-roading. The tradition for the off-road community was to use a CB radio, and GMRS is gaining popularity because of size. This right here is a mobile radio. This is only 5 watts, but they do make some from Midland that are this size. I believe go up to 15. And it's very compact. It can fit anywhere. You can set it, and all of a sudden you've got your mic that you can stick around where you need it. The compact size is one reason. Also, the voice clarity and the distance is also beneficial. CB radio conditions have to be right sometimes to really get your range. But if you're in a mountainous area and you're doing off-road trails, or you're just in an open rural area, you can easily get 3 to 4 miles, sometimes even 5 if the conditions are just right. Another reason GMRS is gaining popularity for the off-road environment is the setup that you can get from Midland. You can basically buy a kit that's a mobile radio and some handhelds. And as opposed to CB radios, you can get some that are much smaller than this. They're USB rechargeable. They're easy to use. You can toss these in the truck or the Jeep and just always have a pair of radios ready to go. Another popular option for GMRS mobiles specifically is farm work. You can get these radios and, spend around $100 per vehicle, and then you have a very clear communication network basically that you set up for your farm on tractors, trucks. You can easily set up a base station with these with an adapter to go from 12 volt to 110, and that way, even if you're in a rural area, it gives you a rural area with poor cell phone service. It gives you a really easy option that has, again, clear voice, pretty good range, definitely big enough for most farms and ranches. And if not, then repeater is an easy option. Another reason that the GMRS type of radio is becoming very popular is in wildfire prone areas. CBS did I think it was a nightly news thing, or they did a snippet on it at one point. There are communities that are going through and working with the county at an official level to actually set up GMRS repeaters. And from Midland, they sell mobile radios that are GMRS repeater ready. And that way, in wildfire situations, when power goes down, you can still talk, because you can set up those repeaters with battery and solar, backup propane generators or diesel generators that automatically kick on when the grid goes down. And it is very popular. It's a huge growing trend right now for everyone that lives in those areas, and that way they can all talk. They can know what's going on with road conditions. If one road all of a sudden is cut off because of fire, then they can easily talk, know what's going on, and then redirect stuff. And the local, I believe the emergency management had something set up with their command center, so that they could have all that information relaying back and forth with law enforcement and fire and that kind of stuff. And it's just a really good option. And again, it's very hard to argue with the compact size of this radio. And it's easy peace of mind. Even if you don't go off-roading that much, you don't work on a farm or in a wildland area, the possibility of cell phone networks going down is very possible, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And it's just an easy option. Just put one in your car, use it a couple times, know what your distances are from your house and work and where your kids go to school, that kind of thing. GMRS is different from FRS. FRS does not require a license, obviously, so that means it doesn't require a test. GMRS does require a license from the FCC. It does not require a test. Fact check me on this, because it could change. I don't think this is out of date though. The license, I believe, is $70. It lasts for 10 years and it covers your entire household. But again, check those numbers because the prices and length of that could change. Right now, if you're looking at getting in GMRS, the best option is Midland, and this isn't sponsored. I just really like Midland stuff. It's built really well. One thing that I've learned from I know this is $100, from the less expensive stuff, like not going with ICOM or Kenwood or something like that. If it has a fan on it, it is most likely going to be pretty cheap. That has been an issue with the Bofeng mobiles, the B-Tech, I believe is the name. From personal experience, that's been an issue. Is I've had ICOMs, I've had the other ones that are cheaper, and it can be very frustrating when you drop that much money and it's not going to work. And with Midland, I have not had an issue yet. I've had these little GX-T1000s forever, and they have not quit working yet. I've had battery issues, but that's after many, many years of handheld of using the handhelds over and over again. To dovetail from that, the Midland is the easiest turnkey option if you're looking at GMRS, and the easiest option if you're looking at again, turnkey option for mobile radios that are repeater capable. The downside, Midland does not have any repeater capable handhelds. I have no idea why. It seems like a really easy market to start adding their products into. As of right now, the only ones that I am aware of that are approved by the FCC, which is important from a legal aspect, because these radios and other radios you get have Part 90 and Part 95, which one is for amateur radio or business radio, I believe. Fact check that. The other one is for GMRS. And if it is not the part number for GMRS, then legally you cannot use that with GMRS stuff. That's a whole discussion that someone can have offline, but it's just something to keep in mind. However, Motorola does make FCC licensed GMRS repeater capable handhelds. And there's another company, if you go to mygmrs.com, there's actually a map, I'll link to it below. There's a map you can get that'll show you all the GMRS repeaters across the country. And on there, they recently added, I had never seen it before up until probably a month or two ago, and there's a store now. And they have a store with antennas, base station antennas, mobile radios, handhelds, and part of that, some of the handhelds they have, I think are from Ocean. It's I think a Japanese company. I'm probably butchering that. I think it's an Asian company, and that is an option you could look into, and I'll link to that below because they have one really good resource to buy all your stuff from. And from what I could tell, it looks like a pretty good customer service avenue. And another option you could look at is buy2aradio.com. I've bought stuff from them before, and they are really, really good. I know from personal experience, and I'll link them below too. FRS is good for short range, and when I say short range, I mean half mile to 1 mile, and that's going to be in urban environments, and in most cases usually rural too. GMRS is going to be a couple options. GMRS is going to give you longer range because it's, more power. So it's going to give you more range in urban environments, definitely in rural. Another reason is when it works well in urban environments is it gives you better penetration with more power to go through walls and stuff. And that could be a whole debate in itself between UHF and VHF. But for this conversation, you definitely get a change in penetration power going through floors and walls with GMRS. One thing I want to point out was someone might say, well, I want the highest transmitting power radio I can get. And that is definitely an option. But when you're looking at it from an operational security side, an emergency preparedness standpoint, the more power you transmit, the further you transmit typically. And if you're trying to, worst case scenario, you don't want everyone to know what's going on. So you don't want to be able to transmit for 3 miles. You want to talk within a few thousand feet or maybe a little more. That's all you want. So that is where FRS has its pros, is it gives you that option of lower power. Now, good radios, good GMRS radios will let you dial down the power, but that's just something to think of. More power does not mean just better. You have to think of it in what application you're going to be using it in. One more operational security thing I want to talk about were privacy codes. When you get almost any consumer radio and they talk about privacy codes or CTCSS, those kind of terms, what that means is that is not encryption and it is not a privacy code. What that means is, if you think of a hallway and you and your other person are talking back and forth, anyone that turns to, say, channel 14 can hear everything going on that channel. When you take and you move to, say, 14 privacy channel 1 or sub channel 1, all that's doing is you're still on channel 14. It just means your radio will not open up, will not let the speaker hear stuff unless that specific code is being activated, which means someone else also on channel 14, sub-channel 1, privacy code 1, has also keyed up their radio and is talking, so now you two can talk. Don't mistake that for, now no one else can hear me. If someone is just on channel 14, no privacy codes, they can hear everything going on that whole channel, whether you're on privacy code 145 or whatever it might be. All that means is you can't hear the other people. And if someone else is on privacy code 5, channel 14, privacy code 5 or CTCSS 5, that means they can't hear you either. But again, all someone has to do is just go back and go to the main channel and they can hear everything going on. So don't start using, if you're worried about security, don't start using locations and names and directions and vehicle types and colors and all that kind of stuff, because everyone can hear what you're doing. It is not a secure communication avenue. Almost nothing is. So whatever you're doing, whether even it's a cell phone, just keep that in mind. One last thing I want to say before I lose the sun is a really good setup for family or just friends is having a GMRS mobile. I would prefer the higher wattage the better. And from Midland, because everything is tuned from Midland to work on their radios, and antennas was what I'm speaking of, and get a good antenna. And you don't have to leave it on your car if that's not something you want, but just keep it in the car. And then everyone in your family needs to have one radio that is a good radio that has different charging options, or you have different options to charge the batteries and you have replacements for those. And that way everyone can talk when they're driving. When if cell phones quit working, it's an easy option to be able to communicate. Once you get all the GMRS stuff, if this is what you choose to do, don't just put it in the cars. Put it on the cars, plug it in, find a channel that everyone knows is yours. So say your channel is 1 sub-channel 1. And I know I just went over privacy codes and stuff. That's mainly just so people are listening. That's just to help clear up being able to talk, right? So everyone knows that your family is on channel 1, sub-channel 1, privacy channel 1, whatever you want to call it. Then go from your home and open up Google Maps and drive until you can't talk anymore. And just remember, you might go down a hill, but you might be able to go to the top of that hill and have really clear communication. So start to learn and understand topography as you're going. Then take that Google map, put a pin down and label it and say, GMRS test 1, right? And and do that in a circle, basically, if you have highways or roads or wherever it is you live around your house. Then if you have a business you go to, have someone stay at home and you go to work, start driving from work and transmitting whatever's realistic. Like, is it every 2 minutes? Is it every 30 minutes? How far do you think that is? Until you can start to kind of hear static and start to hear each other and know that's where you need to get to. And again, take out the Google map, different color pin, put it down, GMRS from work to home. So that way you can take that Google map and share with your family, and that way everyone kind of knows where they can go. And what I would recommend is find a grocery store, whatever that circle is for you. See if your kids' schools are in it, see if your gas station is in it. The basic places you normally go, the park, if you go to the park, whatever the park is for you, whether it's a mountain hiking trail or a baseball diamond, whatever it might be, and know where that kind of is just in the back of your mind, or just save the map and print it out, because if things get really bad you can't see it. So print it out, put it in one of those little sheet protectors and put it in your family emergency binder. That way if something happens you can say, okay, the yellow pins are for handheld radios at 5 watts. How far could we talk? So we can give one to the kids, they can go run down. It's not a big deal if power and cell phones go out. We can still talk to each other and just know that's how far their limit is. Again, if you're looking at radios, Midland is my top shelf choice for reliability and just good product selection. They do not do repeater capable handhelds. If you're looking at that, you want to go toward, I believe it's the Ocean radios, but go to mygmrs.com. There's a store link on there somewhere. I'll put it in the description. And then Motorola at one point had repeater capable handheld radios. So keep that in mind. And then that's it for GMRS and FRS. I hope that was helpful. One last thing I want to put in, almost every major city at this point in the US has at least 2 GMRS repeaters. When you go to mygmrs.com, if it does not give you the PL tone, which is the privacy channel basically, that you'd have to put into your radio to be able to talk back and forth, you usually have to sign up on mygmrs.com. And if it still doesn't give it to you, it'll give you an email address, and that email address will give you a point of contact, because all this stuff has to be registered. We'll give you a point of contact on who to talk to get those PL tones. And then you really can start talking about citywide backup communication, because some of these repeaters are on generators or are on battery backup, because they put this stuff in, whoever this is, whether it's a club or someone that came together with a couple of friends, they did this because they wanted the option for emergency communication. Thank you for watching. The next video will be a basic overview on amateur radio.